Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, a conversation on culture, identity, and mental health. Before we get started, here are a few reminders about the webinar technology. Please make sure that you are using a computer or smartphone connected to the internet, and the audio function is on and the volume is turned up. Please be sure your microphone is muted for the duration of the call unless you are speaking or asking questions. Questions can be submitted anytime during the presentation using the Q&A feature located on your control panel. American Sign Language interpreters and closed captioning options are available for today's event. The American Sign Language interpreters for today are Danette Steelman-Bridges and Susan King Lanier. For closed captioning options, select the closed caption feature located on your dashboard. To adjust the video layout and screen view, select the View feature located in the top right-hand corner of your screen and choose the view that works best for you. Today's agenda topics include welcome and introductions, and then presentations on culture and mental health in Hispanic, Latinx communities, stigma and mental health, and storytelling, uplifting lived experience and inspiring change. This will be followed by a panel discussion. Then DMH DDSUS Director Kelly Crosby will give some closing remarks. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Pamela Rodriguez, Community Outreach Hispanic and Latinx Lead for the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services.
Buenos días. Thank you, Dina. At this time, we will play a video by Juan Delgado, I Am From, celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month.
I am from arroz con gandule, not yellow rice. Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia has it too, and it tastes as good as mine. I come from a green island where everything grows in the trees for free. La Palma, like in Santo Domingo y Cuba, they're like giants, and they delight you, te enamoran with the warmest breeze. I am from Hamacas, pelo kinky o lacio, frizzy or straight hair, mulata, negrito, ocano, bronze, dark, and light skin. I am from big families that don't need a reason to get together and go for a swim, pa la playa. I am from a place that's proud of the Taino, African, Spanish roots. I come from a place that we call you negrito or negrita just because we like you. Vengo de un lugar where our strength comes from the Taino Indians, our rhythms de Africa, our courage from Spain. I'm a mofongo and asopao of cultures. Boricua is my name. I am a Latino from El Caribe. I am a Wilda Vega's son. I was born in Humacao where the sun rises, and I was raised in Caguas where the Taino cacique Caguax is from. I am from arroz con gandule. I told you that before. I am from Alcapurria, Morcilla y Lechon, where everything has sofrito y sazon. I come from a place where we greet each other with a flying kiss. Doesn't matter who you are. And at home, a cafecito is always offered, and something papical, where we ask our elders for la bendición when we say hello and goodbye. And a Dios te bendiga, mijo, mija, comes fairly quickly as terms of endearment is the reply. Where I am from, we have the longest Christmas break in the world, and that ain't no lie. We go from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's to Three Kings and 8 days after that. In that time, coquito is offered at every house, and we have lights at the plazas of the towns. Parranda, tembleque, pitorro, yuca con ajo. That's how Christmas goes down. I am from Puerto Rico, where my raíces are from. I have a lot of sweet childhood memories there, like bacalaíto, gallito, canica, y chicharrón. To all my hermanos y hermanas from America Latina, this is Hispanic Heritage Month. Ecuador, Nicaragua, Chile, Honduras, you are celebrated with the bunch. Being from America Latina is what makes us unique. We can go from Panama to El Salvador to Guatemala. Español is what we speak. We add a little spice to this. We make things a little bit interesante. We have a mixture of cultures in us that everywhere we go, we have a representante.
message and great music. Our next segment is culture and mental health. I will now introduce Rachel Ann Galanter, technical assistant and consultation lead for El Futuro. Rachel, please start with an introduction and an overview of your professional background, then proceed with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Pamela. I am the Technical Assistance and Consultation Lead at El Futuro, which means it's my role to advance Latina mental health by providing training and consultation to other agencies to support their ability to provide culturally and linguistically appropriate services. I've been doing work with Latina families for decades, including in-home parent coaching, where I help to develop strong connections between padres y hijos, between parents and children, so that they could protect their children's mental health and help them recover from difficult moments. And I am really excited today to be talking about what is mental health and how does it intersect with culture. Can move the slide forward. So what is mental health? Mental health is how you think and feel and behave, as well as your ability to cope with life's challenges. It includes your emotional well-being, having the appropriate emotion for the situation, and ways to cope with difficult emotions. So it's not being happy all the time. It's not that your life is perfect and sunshine and rainbows. It's that you are responding to the situation around you with an appropriate emotion. So if somebody in your family is detained or deported or having a difficult time with the current climate, you may be sad. And that may mean that you're listening to your sad music Spotify playlist and laying in bed and petting your dog. And that is an appropriate way to cope with that difficult emotion. That's good mental health. It includes your psychological well-being, having the ability to function cognitively, including the ability to problem solve and self-awareness of what you're doing and how it's being perceived by other people. So for example, if I am so stressed, I am in fight, flight, freeze mode all the time, and I am not able to problem solve, I am not having good psychological well-being. That figuring out a way to cope with that stress and get back into that space where I can think through my options and respond instead of just react in a place of survival mode, that's part of good mental health. And part of good mental health is social well-being, building and maintaining healthy relationships, feeling connected to other people, and being able to give back and contribute to society. That if I feel like I'm always taking, I'm not going to feel good. I want to feel like sometimes I'm the person who gives. In a collectivistic culture, this becomes even more important because mental health is not separate from culture. In a culture that values the family unit over the individual or the community over the individual, we have to be paying attention to how social well-being maybe takes up more space in people's mental health. And when people don't feel like they're able to be part of their family, that their family is rejecting them, or there's a lot of family conflict, or that their community is not supporting them, or that they aren't able to give to their community, that's going to affect mental health. Maintaining good mental health includes engaging in regular physical activity, in movement, because our bodies and our mental well-being are connected. Getting enough sleep. The symptoms of so many mental health disorders, whether it's depression or anxiety or trauma, include disruptions in sleep. And so it's a two-way street. We need good, healthy sleep to be able to function well in terms of our mental health. And getting healthy foods, that if we eat sugary junk, we're going to experience that elevation in mood and that crash. Or if we're not getting enough liquids, when our mouths are dry all the time because we're dehydrated, that can activate our nervous system to say, oh, we must be in danger, because when your mouth is dry, it's related to being in that survival mode because digestion stops. So all these things contribute to good mental health, taking care of the physical vessel that carries us. In addition, being able to manage your stress effectively, whether that's mindfulness that helps you to be in the here and now and not um, sort of perseverate on things that happened in the past that you can't change or worry about what might happen in the future. Self-care, and that recipe looks different for everybody, and that's where culture might play a big part. The music you might want to listen to as part of self-care, or the activities you might want to do, whether it's dancing or spending time with your football team or spending time with your family, that recipe for self-care is really affected by culture. Time in nature, there's so much that happens when we're out in the bigger world that can get activated to help our nervous system calm down and reset. Being part of your family, contributing to your family, contributing to the community, that feeling of usefulness is really important to our mental health. Cultivating positive social connections, that feeling that we belong somewhere is especially important. And then knowing when we need to get help outside of our family unit and ourselves, whether that's the help of a curandero or the help of a community health worker or a mental health professional, there are things we can take care of at home. If I have a cold, I'm going to drink some soup and maybe take some medicine at home. But if I have a pain that won't stop, that's lasting for weeks and weeks, I'm going to go see a professional. Likewise, if I am not able to, with my stress management techniques and my social network and my good physical habits, notice an improvement in my mental health, and I'm not able to do my job or go to school or have good relationships or take care of myself, then I may need to go get help. When there is a lot of outside stress, it can be harder to take care of your mental health. And that right now there's anti-immigrant rhetoric that's affecting a lot of people. There are people who are being negatively affected by policies that are happening right now, whether their positions are being defunded, or they know people who are being detained or deported, or that they're worried about people in their network being mistakenly detained. That all of that stress that people are living with can affect their mental health, as well as just acculturative stress, the stress of being pulled between your heritage culture and the culture that's receiving you. And that push and pull between how to do things, your values from those two different cultures, your identities from those two different cultures can affect your mental health. Enculturation, feeling connected to your culture and rooted in your heritage, is good for your mental health. And that is a way that culture is beneficial to mental health. La cultura cura. Your culture can really heal you. Let me talk a little bit more about acculturation and enculturation. Do the next slide. Acculturation is the process of changing so that you're more like people from a different culture, and that there is stress in that process of changing, and that could be an immigrant or an ethnic minority, because you may not be a first generation immigrant, you may be the second or third generation, and there's still that push-pull between your heritage culture and the receiving culture. And that if you're trying to acculturate and you're feeling pushed out, or you're assimilating and you're getting disconnected from your roots, that assimilation or marginalization can affect your mental health. That being connected to your culture can be really, really protective of your mental health. But if you become separated or segregated, the lack of opportunities that come from that may negatively affect your mental health. Let's go to the next slide. So when we are experiencing stress from acculturation, that can cause family conflict. That can cause depression or anxiety symptoms, poor quality of life. People report feeling less well, their self-esteem is lower, there's a greater risk of suicidality, especially if it's disrupting family connection because one person is more acculturated and another family member is less acculturated. And many people cope with this acculturative stress and these gaps in the family and the conflict and the disconnection that causes with substance use. Enculturation, feeling connected to your culture, having ethnic and racial identity stability and pride in who you are, creates resilience in the face of discrimination or racism. It helps create family unity, and that connection to family and sense of belonging is very protective of mental health. It enhances academic performance in young people and enhances overall well-being. Let's go to the next slide. So it's important to recognize that when we're treating anxiety or depression or substance use or poor health outcomes in general, maybe somatic responses to stress or post-traumatic stress disorder, that all those things, we don't want to just treat the condition. We want to look at how to build up the strength of our trunk and that resilience that comes from pulling on ethnic pride, pulling on connections to culture, building out use of community resources, that familism, that connection to family, that sense of belonging that we know is so important to mental well-being. Connecting people to social supports, because that connection to community is such an important part of mental health. Helping develop coping skills for those difficult emotions and those difficult situations that people are living with, and building up optimism. And when we dig into those roots in a cultural way, helping people connect to their culture, that can be very helpful to building out resilience and making for successful treatment of the things that are happening in the branches of the tree. La cultura cura. Culture heals. We continue. I want to talk specifically a little bit about Latine culture because we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And for Latine culture, many times people feel uncomfortable talking about mental health, that oftentimes people will actually somaticize their stress, that it will show up in their body because people feel like somehow it's a weakness. But we all have emotions, and especially when there are stressful situations, we can have negative emotions, and that it's important for people to understand that that's normal, and that we see when we're having those negative experiences that it can show up disrupting our sleep, disrupting our habits around eating, making us feel like we need to express some things, and that if you can do that with things that help settle your mind, whether that's being able to do some mindfulness or paying attention to your breathing, or maybe something that helps you cope with it, maybe thinking about something you really love, a person, place, activity that gives you joy or peace or calm, that's really helpful to helping people's mental health. Or we can help people by relaxing their body, whether it's through an activity they love, or squeezing a stress ball, or going outside for a walk in nature. Or maybe it's doing something to connect with their heart and release those strong feelings, talking to a friend, writing in a journal. Whatever it is, if they can do some of those things that release some of that stress and manage that stress, that can support their mental health, but also to help people understand that sometimes, just like when our physical health is in really bad situation, if our mental health is interfering with our ability to do our job or engage in school or engage in relationships or to be with other people, that we may need to get some help outside the home. And for some people, the idea of going to a therapist is really hard. And so maybe they want to see a community health worker, and that there are community health workers trained to address mental health. Here at El Futuro, if you can see that QR code for Mentes Fuertes, if you are an adult and you are living in Orange or Chatham or Durham or Wake, we have free support for people from community health workers trained to help you understand how your thoughts and your feelings and your actions are connected and help you develop some new skills to address mental health. But across the state, Mentes Fuertes is available in Spanish or English to help people with their mental health needs. And on the next slide, I'm going to show how to get in touch with them. On this handout, Hablemos de Salud Mental, you'll see there are 2 QR codes. One has some videos that help people address mental health, and the other has a resource list to help people find Spanish-speaking mental health providers anywhere in the state. I hope you'll stay in touch with me. And remember La Cultura Cura, so that if there is a cultural festival near you, and that would help you maybe connect to your roots, to some dance, to some music, to some food that really helps you feel rooted in your culture, that might be something to do during this Hispanic Heritage Month with your family, with your friends, so that you're getting that social connection and also that rootedness in your ethnicity that can make you feel able to cope with all the things that are going on. One last slide. If you want to get connected with Mentes Fuertes, you can reach out using this phone number if you're not in the Triangle area and you want to connect, or you can email them strong9s@uncg.edu. They provide services in English, Spanish, and additional languages, both virtually or on the telephone. Or you can look at the El Futuro website, where we have lots of resources for coping with the current political climate, things that can help people with mindfulness or connecting to resources they may need. And on our learning website, we have materials to help providers in supporting Latina mental health. So from our familia to yours, mil gracias, and feel free to email me and stay in touch. I'm going to pass it back to Pamela, who's going to move us on with a poll.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you. Your input and details you shared today are appreciated. At this time, we will launch a polling question. What cultural activity helps you the most when you are stressed? ¿Qué actividad cultural te ayuda más cuando sientes estrés? Cooking a traditional dish. Cocinar un plato tradicional, como una bandeja paisa, chilaquiles, mofongo, tamales. Listening to cultural music. Escuchar música cultural, como las rancheras de México, el vallenato de Colombia. Connecting with family and friends. Conectarme con mi familia y amistades. Practicing spirituality or religion. Practicar espiritualidad o religión, or dancing. Bailar. Okay, let's see the results. It seems that based on the results of the poll, it seems that most of people prefer connecting with family and friends. Conectarme con mi familia y amistades as an activity to help when we are feeling stressed. Our next segment will be mental health in Hispanic and Latinx communities. I will now turn it over to Elizabeth Uzcategui, who is the program director for Coastal Horizon, Clínica Latina. Elizabeth, please introduce yourself and continue with your presentation.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Y buen provecho. Enjoy your lunch. To all of those who are in the middle of eating lunch. My name is Elizabeth Uzcategui, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and program director for Clínica Latina at Coastal Horizons. I'm gonna try to remember to speak slowly. That's not in my culture. So, I have a 20+ years of experience working with the Latino community, and I am originally from Puerto Rico, so I've been working with the Latino community of my life. Really. So it's just natural. But I love the video that Pamela shared in the beginning. It was taking me all the way back to Puerto Rico. I'm going back home to Puerto Rico in November. Can't wait. I'm gonna be eating some mofongo and alcapurrias, bacalaitos, some food from the islands. Rachel, thank you for your presentation. Very informative and well thought out. All right, next slide. Let's get to it. We only got 15 minutes. So I am charged with speaking on navigating bicultural identity. This is a very challenging thing for Latinos, Latinx community, the Hispanic community. And research supports that a sense of belonging is crucial to an individual's mental health and emotional well-being. And this also applies to this population as well. Rachel mentioned that acculturation can be a stressful situation or process for the Latinx community. And so most individuals in Hispanic communities, Latinx communities face many challenges in balancing their original culture and new culture as they try to meld together, right, with these two cultures, and live in these two environments, within these two environments. I was remembering my own upbringing and thinking, you know, we were Puerto Ricans in the home, and then trying to be Americans outside of the home, right? So everything at home was Puerto Rican. The food, the culture, how we dressed, how we spoke. And then outside of that, it was a different life. It's speak English and try to fit in with the American culture. And that's not easy to always navigate those two worlds and then try to meld that together and find your own identity within those two different cultures. And you start to face a lot of stress, and there's a difference within how you approach that within the different generations. So different generations are going to have a different response and stress to acculturation. So our first generation of immigrants that come to the US, for example, are going to have a more profound and direct cultural challenge here. They don't know the language. They're going to have economic challenges and instability. They're leaving family back home, all their social networks back home. So they're coming to a country they don't have any much knowledge about, and they don't know anything about most of the time. So their experience is going to be different from a first generation immigrant. First generation immigrants have challenges too, though, because they are going to have a profound and direct cultural challenge when it comes to language. So they're learning English, but most of us are going to be learning Spanish as our first language, still in the home. And so when we leave the home and go to school, now we're learning English. And so we're going to find ourselves with that challenge. And the expectation from our parents is, and this is where we get some of that conflict, family conflict, is that at home you speak Spanish, and at home, for example, you're Puerto Rican, but you're also expected to assimilate to the American culture. So you're also expected to learn English and speak English perfectly, and get good grades, right? And assimilate perfectly to the American culture. So how do you do this, right? But also don't forget the Spanish, because abuela only speaks Spanish, mommy and papi only speak Spanish. So you have to be able to navigate this perfectly. You have to still read Spanish, write Spanish. You can't forget your culture. And the parents take this very offensively. So first generation immigrants have a significant challenge. The children here in the second generation, these are children that are born in the US from Latina families. And these children also face a challenge. These children oftentimes don't feel like they belong here or they belong there. They don't feel fully Latinos, and they don't feel fully American. So like, where am I? What we hear a lot of the times in the clinic from these children is, or adolescents is, they're the no sabo kids, no sabo inglés, right? And so when they speak, no sabo español, excuse me. So when they speak Spanish, their Spanish is not very good Spanish, very broken or no Spanish at all. So families, the older members in the families make fun of them, or look poorly at them because they don't know Spanish. However, they're not American enough, because they don't look American, to fit in the American culture. So these are the kids that this creates stress because they don't feel belonging anywhere, right? So this creates a lot of emotional and mental health stress for them. And then we have the third generation immigrants. These are the most assimilated in the culture. They feel the most American, but again, they also experience a lot of that stress and feel alienated then from their cultural roots. And trying to find where I belong and finding their ancestors and roots, and finding like, what's my history, right? So those are the kind of stressors and identity difficulties that some of these generations might be facing. So all of these things, you see how this creates a lot of cultural conflict, family conflict. The expectations from the families are, as I mentioned, that you are to still be 100% Puerto Rican, whether you're first, second, or third generation immigrant. You're still expected to be 100% Mexican and eat tortillas and not love or prefer pizza over the Mexican food. This is something that we hear a lot from parents in our sessions. parents feel highly offended when the children prefer McDonald's over the home cooked meals, or they prefer pizza over the home cooked meals. When parents first get here, they prepare their meals and their lunches, and they send their kids to school with warm lunches. And the kids in school, they don't want to pull out that lunch. Why? It's that culture, right? That culture, that stress, and that stigma. And some of the kids at school say, oh, your lunch smells or stinks. And so they make fun of that. So the kids say, we don't want the lunch, Mom. Mom does not understand why the kids are trying to assimilate, right, to the culture, and not get made fun of in school. But mom says, I want you to be like the other kids in school, but at the same time, I want you to eat the food that I prepared for your lunch, right? So it puts the kids in this place of conflict. Like, what do I do here? You want me to look like the other kids in school, but you want me to eat this lunch. Nobody else at school is eating this lunch. So the parents get really, really offended. They get really hurt with this situation. So the language barriers we've talked about, and we've talked about the acculturation stress. Remember that our Latina, Hispanic cultures value familismo, this idea that, you know, cohesion and family comes first, family function and family investment, and these are strengths for the Latina community. However, right, these strengths can also cause stress when it comes to identity and trying to belong, like we just mentioned, because the American culture is very individualistic, and this Latina culture is very family oriented. So when one culture is pulling one way, the other culture is pulling the other way, right? So that creates a lot of stress. Respeto, respect for your elders. This is huge, huge, huge in the Latina culture. And so where the American culture values and respects, you know, speaking up, speaking your opinion, which is wonderful, right? We are saying you respect your elders, you listen, you keep your mouth shut, right? And so you keep your eyes down, you don't look people in the face, right? Right straight to their eyes, because that's considered you're challenging the authority. So these differences here, so when the student is in school and the teacher is talking to them and the teacher's saying, you're not looking at me in the eye, look at me. And the student's like, what do I do here? Because at school, I'm supposed to look at the person in the eye, and at home, you better not. So we see this identity crisis that can come up, right? And this challenge. So we want to be understanding about these situations. Next slide. Understanding the impact of immigration, discrimination, and the sense of belonging. So Rachel spoke very well about the impact on mental health, right? There's impact on our physical health. when we don't feel that we belong, when we are faced with discrimination or we are we're not included, we can feel that stress in our physical health. Social exclusion also can cause limited access to social supports and social networks and opportunities in our community and in our lives, right? So we start to see these challenges, right? We are not Latino enough, like I mentioned before, and also not American enough. So where do I fit in? What really am I? What really is my identity here? So we have these identity conflicts and identity formation that come up. This situation impacts how we trust people, and trust is a huge factor in our Latina culture. And it also creates psychological stress, which Rachel already spoke highly about this ongoing stress from acculturation, ongoing stress or psychological stress because of people's legal status, and the systemic barriers that exist in our culture. Next slide. Inclusion and belonging. This is very interesting. And I'm not going to speak today on what we need to do to help people feel included, because I feel like we've had a lot about that. But I'm going to speak to you what Latinos do, what Hispanics do to feel included, to include themselves, because we are going to show up. We're going to make the best. We're celebrating today. We're celebrating our culture. And so we're going to talk about, I want to talk about how we show up, what we do, what our contributions are here in order to feel included and to belong wherever we are. So, but first, to give you a little bit of example and understanding of what exclusion inclusion feels like. I don't know if many of you know or not, that Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. And so Puerto Ricans, by default, are US citizens. We've been US citizens since 1917. And however, that we are US citizens, right? Inclusion. We don't have a sense of belonging because, and so we always call ourselves Puerto Ricans versus Americans, because we don't have a lot of the same privileges as Americans in the US. For example, we're not allowed to vote for the US president if we're living in Puerto Rico. So for the millions of Puerto Ricans living on the island in Puerto Rico, they are not allowed to vote during the US election, presidential elections. Now, Puerto Rico also doesn't have representation in the US House of Representatives. So again, we're included, but at the same time, excluded. Isn't it exclusionary integration? This is not what we want to do, right? But this is what happens a lot of the times. So How did Puerto Ricans show up? Let me share a little bit. During the Korean War, approximately 61,000 Puerto Ricans fought in this war in the 65th Infantry Regiment. They were known as the Borinqueniers, and they were crucial to this war. The South Korean government said that if it had not been for this regiment, they would have lost South Korea to North Korea. They would have lost Seoul, because it was this regiment who, with bayonets in hand, fought to the end and won Seoul, Korea. The Borinqueniers received the Congressional Gold Medal in 2016, but the South Korean government recognized their valor and their efforts in 2013. You guys know how long ago this Korean War was, right? Okay. But that's how we show up. That's just an example. You guys can go, there's a beautiful video on YouTube about this. All right, so according to the 2019 US Census, 65% of Latinos and Hispanics in the US are US-born citizens. In 2021, 72% of US Latinos age 5 and older speak English proficiently. Nice. Okay, the total economic output of Latinos in the US was 3.7 trillion in 2022. This was the 5th largest GDP in the world. This was a record high and the fastest growth than the top 10 economies in the world during the COVID-19 years. Phenomenal, phenomenal. Latinas in 2021 contributed $1.3 trillion to the US GDP, gross domestic product. They're not just having babies. They're producing dollars too. They're working hard, right? I'm being funny. Latino, Hispanic-owned businesses are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in the US. This is all according to the census and Pew Research here. Hispanic-owned firms generated $572.9 billion in revenue in 2021. According to the US Census in 2021, Hispanics between 25 and 34 had the highest rate of college completion, bachelor's degree or higher. We're showing up, guys. I'm telling you, we're gonna include ourselves and we're gonna belong. About 18 to 19% of active duty military members are Latinos, Hispanic. And between 2008 and 2023, the number of Hispanic veterans grew from 1.2 million to 1.5 million. This is an increase of 25%. We're here, guys. And we're going to make the best of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We truly appreciate the information and perspectives you provide today. At this time, we will launch our next polling question. What cultural value best support your emotional well-being? ¿Qué valor cultural te ayuda más con tu bienestar emocional? Family, la familia. Respect, el respeto. Community, la comunidad. Resilience, nuestra resiliencia. Faith, nuestra fe. Let's see the results. Okay. Based on the results of the poll, it seems family, la familia, seems to be the most popular value to support our emotional well-being. We will now turn it over to David Villanueva, who is Certified Peer Support Specialist for Camino. He will present on stigma and mental health. David, please open with an overview of your professional background, then continue with your presentation.
Hi, thank you very much, Pamela. Bienvenidos, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know I'm happy to be here. I want to give a special thanks to Kelly Crosby and Pamela for allowing me the opportunity to come share with you and our community throughout North Carolina. My name is David Villanueva. I am a certified peer support specialist here at Camino Salud in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm also a training instructor for A Path to Recovery, or Un Camino a la Recuperación, which is the only manual that's state approved in both English and Spanish. I am a proud graduate of FIU, Florida International University in Miami, Florida. Go Panthers. I am an advocate and I'm extremely passionate about supporting all pathways to recover. I do believe that there is no right way or wrong way to recover. Recovery is an individualized journey of transformation and healing for every single person. I am a person in sustained recovery, and I'm passionate about using my lived experience along with my education and training to help those along their recovery journeys. If we can move to the next slide, please, and I'll continue with the presentation. I do want to share with everyone today about the cultural barriers, stigma, and the systemic barriers that exist within Latino communities around North Carolina. Stigma being the negative attitudes and perspective about those who live with mental health challenges and or substance use challenges. Stigma is a big issue. It can lead to negative feelings and emotions such as shame, guilt, and embarrassment to those who live with these conditions. We also see some of these cultural beliefs that can be barriers. Within Latino communities, there is this belief system that substance use and mental health is directly associated with willpower. Or Latinos being faith-based, there is also this concept that these challenges are coming directly from a spiritual disconnect that the person is living with. And we also have this idea that substance use to a certain degree is acceptable within our communities. There is family and community pressure we like to individuals to be aware of. Right? Family pressures include the marginalization of those individuals within our community that live with mental health and or substance use challenges. This belief within families in the community that it's a personal problem, that this individual is just something that is unique to them. Systemic barriers that we see across our state are a lack of Spanish-speaking providers and services available to those Spanish speakers. The economic factors that can include things like lack of insurance, not qualifying for insurance, with or without insurance, also the cost. There's usually a cost associated with mental health and substance use treatment. Lack of culturally competent providers, although in some instances there are providers that do speak Spanish, if they are or not from Latino cultures, we want these providers to recognize the differences that do exist within Latino cultures. As those who are part of the community know, a person from Mexico or Guatemala, for example, is not exactly the same as an individual from Cuba or the Dominican Republic. There may be overlap with some of these cultures, such as the language that they speak. But again, there's some intrinsic differences within the culture. Caribbean individuals not being the same as South American people, and again, who are not exactly like those from Central America. Immigration barriers, right? That is an issue. It's a hot topic currently now in the climate that we're living in. There is a barrier. Individuals being hesitant to go look for help due to their immigration status, whatever that may be, whether they are quote unquote legally here or not. There's also the lack of access to education and the knowledge of where to go get help, right? And these are all issues that we do want to address and as providers be aware of, right? We want to encourage, recognize that these exist in the community. I do want to circle back to the concept of stigma. We see here on the slide, I have los trapos sucios se lavan en casa. That's a Spanish saying that loosely translates to English along the lines of the dirty rags or the dirty clothes is washed at home. This means that outside of the home environment or outside of the four walls that make up our home, these issues are not spoken about, right? Not speaking about these leads to stigma, which can lead to some of these negative emotions and feelings that people have. And we know stigma is directly related to discrimination. And we'll speak about next now about addressing some of these concerns and how we can encourage individuals to seek help. If we can move to the next slide, please. Question about, well, as the issues of addressing these cultural barriers arise, one of the first things we want to service providers to be aware of and inclusive are increasing their bilingual providers, increase Spanish-speaking service providers. In addition to speaking the language, we do want to increase the cultural awareness and the sensitivity of care that they are providing to our Latino communities. Best way, as mentioned just a moment ago, is recognizing the difference within Latino communities, understanding that Latino communities in our state and in other states as well may have distrust of formal organizations. This can be linked to historical trauma. It can be related to mistreatment that individuals have had in the past. It could be directly related to the current climate and political climate we're living in. We ask providers to be aware of your own cultural identity, right? That's a step you can take into cultural awareness and providing culturally sensitive care. If you're aware of your own cultural identity, it can help you recognize these internal biases that you may or may not live with. And this could help also reduce assumptions, right? The idea is that we want individuals and service providers, if you're not sure, it's okay, ask questions, right? Recognizing that not all Latinos are the same, so we can ask questions, right? Cultivate that curiosity, and it can help us provide better care. Recognize also that building relationships takes time, especially with those who may have been hurt in the past. Part of being culturally sensitive here is using recovery-oriented language. Using the appropriate language can help build the individual's self-esteem. It can help cultivate trustful relationships. The use of media and technology, right? Today, we do live in an era where media and tech is a part of our world. So it is understanding how comfortable are members of this community using media and technology. Most Latinos actually have very good use of media and technology, but you want to ask, be sure, right? A lot of the services provided nowadays can be used via online platforms, using tech such as computers and cell phones, but be sure, do these individuals feel comfortable using this technology, right? Do they prefer one method over the other? And lastly, to address cultural barriers is the community engagement. We always want to make mention of we always want to make mention of utilizing community outreach. It's very important that organizations who serve the Latino community get out into the community, right? Become a part of the community, get to know the community. This will allow the community to get to know you as a service provider, right? Getting to know each other again helps build trust. And once you can build trust, you can grow these relationships, and individuals will be more willing to seek out care. We can move to the next slide. I do want to make a mention now of some of the common mental health concerns that we are seeing within Hispanic communities. Specifically, I can share on what I've noticed around the Charlotte metro area with substance use. This increase in methamphetamine use is something I've noticed that is of high concern to myself and others who provide assistance and help for mental health in our community. I encourage service providers and the community as a whole to become familiar with some of the language that's being used. I've had a few peers that I've worked with who were using the name of a specific street drug, which was not methamphetamine, but they indeed were using methamphetamine, right? So ask questions, get to know these individuals, be curious and be non-judgmental on what we're discussing. This helped open the door, and further probing helped me to identify, although they were using a different name, what they were really referring to was the methamphetamine. Alcohol use is also a challenge in our communities at this time. We know that this could be for a variety of reasons. One of the things that does occur within our communities, we know alcohol is a big part of Hispanic culture. It's very socially acceptable, whether it's for a celebration, a party, any other type of holiday or event. We want to remind our Latino community that alcohol doesn't have to be a part of the celebration. Maybe we can utilize non-alcohol alternatives for some of these same events that maybe individuals may be hosting. Other things of concern are the isolation, the feelings of sadness, or the diagnosed depression that exist. One thing that I've noticed with individuals is that due to stigma or other factors, people keeping to themselves, the lack of awareness of where to get help has further made individuals feel isolated. This idea that there is no availability of Spanish-speaking providers. These concepts that things such as depression are not a real thing, that this is just a perspective the person has, that they just need to get over it, right? Individuals are also unsure of where to go get help. We want to let community members know where the help is available. We want to instead of suffering in silence, which is also concern, right? This can be linked back to some of the things we just spoke about, the stigma, right? Isolation. You want to remind individuals they are not alone. Mental health challenges, substance use challenges are not unique to Hispanic culture or communities. People from other communities live with some of these same challenges. People from all walks of life, all parts of society. So we want to remind individuals that by being able to open these conversations and begin the conversations, that seeking help is actually a strength, right? You don't have to do this alone. There is help out there. We just need to access it, right? Remind individuals that there's no reason to feel stigmatized because you're dealing with mental health or substance use challenges. Again, our community members are not alone, and remind them that us as service providers and other individuals in the community are willing to help, and we want to help. I think now, after addressing these concerns, I'd like to turn it over again to Pamela.
Thank you so much, David. We truly appreciate the information and perspectives you provide us today. For our next poll question, based on your experience, what do you believe is the most significant barrier preventing members of Hispanic and Latinx communities from accessing mental health care. Según su experiencia, ¿cuál considera que es la barrera más significativa que impide a los miembros de las comunidades hispanas y latinas a acceder a servicios de salud mental? Stigma associated with mental health. Estigma asociado con salud mental. Limit access to provider with appropriate cultural awareness. Acceso limitado a proveedores con el entendimiento cultural apropiado. Financial barriers or lack of health insurance. Barreras económicas o falta de seguro médico. Language-related challenges, retos relacionados con el idioma. Or access to accurate information, acceso a información precisa. Based on the result of the poll, the most significant barrier preventing Hispanic and Latinx communities from accessing mental health care is limit access to provider with an appropriate cultural awareness. Acceso limitado a proveedores con el entendimiento cultural apropiado. Next up, we have storytelling, uplifting lived experience and inspiring change with Jessica Aguilar. Jessica is the co-founder and executive director of the Power and Hope Support Group, Grupo Poder y Esperanza. Jessica, please introduce yourself and continue with your presentation.
Thank you, Pamela. Hi, everyone. Hola a todos. Well, what Pamela said, my name is Jessica Aguilar. And before the present other things, I can say I'm a proud mom, the twins, Luis and Christian, that both will have intellectual and development disabilities and mental health conditions. And that's my first big job. And that's my more important job. I'm advocate and leader in North Carolina. I have a personal experience with my kids. They are amazing. I am part of the State Consumer and Family Advisory Committee. I'm part of the Peer Mentor in the Spanish Language and Cultural Liaison in Acalaca. And I'm part of the other different organizations because one of the things that I want to is our Hispanic families always be included in the table. And sometimes for the barrier of the language, our families are not included. And I see myself in a lot of places and try to show other families and other members of our community that it's very important to be part of these tables and motivated to be part of the table. Next one, please. You can pass the, thank you. One of the things that I consider very important is our stories. Our stories can experience a change and making a lived experience is the principal point. I say I'm the expert of my kids. I can say I'm expert that all the kids that have autism. No, because every child is different. Every adult is different. But I'm expert of my kids, and I know if they talk to me about my kids, I know what they need, and I know what they support that they have and that they need. And this is very important for a lot of families. And sometimes the Hispanic community don't find his voice because they can speak in English or they can feel that they can do it. Maybe they can speak English, but they feel the scare, the bias, stigma, and different organizations and different places, especially in what is state organizations, they're scared. But it's very important to motivate our families to speak and say what is their necessities and what is the support that they need. When I entered to the first time I stayed in consumer family members, I realized that they don't have idea that a lot of things that happen with our community because no one sat down at the table and said to them. And I have the honor to sit down at that table and speak with other people and find that they hear me, they understand, and they empathize with me. But that's why we need to tell our stories. The next one, please. I wanna say a little bit about my personal story. When I received the diagnosis of my kids, well, I can come back to 13 years ago. When my kids born, I don't speak English at all. I have maybe 1 year to be in this country. And I received calls. I'm in the bed, the hospital, because they have scared that I have embolia or I have other damage because I have a preeclampsia when I have them. And they have me with a lot of machines. And they sometimes have interpreters. They sometimes don't have interpreters. They call me and the only they say to me is, this is life or death. And they say me everything in English. I don't understand what they say to me. I don't have idea what they want to do with my kids. I only need the trust that they making the best for my kids and have a life. Because they are in NICU and intensive NICU because they give it 24 hours for leave. Say that's a point that you feel insulate, alone. We are very family oriented. I don't have family here. A lot of families, Hispanic communities don't have family here. They are alone. It's only we have family that we choose, like friends or same community, but we don't have our family members. And that situations are very stressful and traumatic because you don't know what's going on. And whatever decision that you take it can be a decisions that take a risk the life that your loved one. It's a many challenge that our families have when they have a diagnostics. Especially receive the diagnostic is a challenge. How many parents want to receive the diagnostic for his kids, but they don't find it one psychologist to speak Spanish. It's like have people that speak Spanish, but the waiting list is very large. And this is a very problem. It's like, how can the psychology can say if my kids have a one condition if he don't understand what I say? And I don't understand what they asking me for. I can say my kids that they interpreter for me because probably a lot of the words that they say, they are very technician and they don't understand what they're talking. And a lot of parents use his kids for interpretation because a lot of places don't have interpreters, especially when they are evaluations. Dentists, ophthalmology. This is a places that don't have interpreters. maybe in the hospital, maybe in the clinic, you can find that someone that can interpreter, but in these other places don't. The same with the mental health. When you go with the psychology or counselor, it's not so much in Spanish. Additional to this is the facing external judgments about our children. We say that, David said that, the other two ladies, they say that the stigma, the cultural, be a big part of our life. And a lot of families don't understand when the kids have or adults have a disability. They don't understand the parents making the best that they can with the resources that they have. And it's a lot of judge. It's a lot of judge, not only for Hispanic community, it's a lot of judge for the society, that they thinking that Hispanic parents don't care about his kids. How many times schools say to the parents, oh, because you don't come, and maybe this parent have 2 jobs for can survive day a day. And is a single mom. It's what they say is a lot of stigma. A lot of parents left at the mothers because the kids have a conditions. And we face it along this process and need to take care of our kids, go to therapies, payments, work, clean up our house. It's a lot of things. And this is very important. And that's why it's very important to see the gift and navigate the system. Educational and medical is so hard, even for people that speak English. At the next one, please.
Thank you, Jessica. Jessica, I understand you wrote a book and that provide meaningful resources and information to caregivers and families. Can you tell us more about your book and what readers can expect to gain from it? Tengo entendido que escribiste un libro que ofrece recursos e información muy valiosa para cuidadores y familias. Por favor, cuéntanos más sobre tu libro y qué podemos esperar los lectores de él.
Yes, well, I started making some books that be more cultural humility, more culturalmente humildes. Why? Because sometimes we receive the information in English and Spanish, but families call and say, I don't understand. Like, it's not only translate the stuff, it's also the families need to understand, they need to feel that it's more easy for them, like a simple language. And that's why we decided to create this book and put together like what is the steps. It's hard to find it. What is next? The people tell us, oh, you have autism kid, you have a Down syndrome, but what is next? And that's what we try to do with that book.
Thank you so much, Jessica. For those interested, how can we access or order a copy of your book? Para esos que estamos interesados, ¿cómo podemos acceder o pedir una copia de tu libro?
We have the book, nosotros tenemos nuestro libro in the website de Poder y Esperanza. The link Carol put in the chat, and it's in Spanish and English. I put it in both language for people can understand and help other families in Spanish to understand that.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We appreciate all the job that you are doing, the information and feedback you provide today. We will now start our panel discussion. I want to ask for all our presenters to come on screen at this time. Great. For our first question, David. I'm sorry, David. David, from your peer specialist perspective, how can we utilize our cultural strength to facilitate recovery and resilience in individuals navigating mental health challenges?
Hi again, Pamela. Great question. Best way that we can use our cultural strengths, I think first we have to begin with understanding what are the strengths that exist within the Latino community. Coming directly from the Camino, the recently published Camino North Carolina-wide Strength and Needs Assessment, strengths that have been identified within our Latino community across North Carolina. Some of the top strengths include the strong work ethic, which means hard, dependable workers, the spirit of service, the connection to faith, strong family relationships, and this belief that the adult generation should be role models for the youth. And I think now that we understand what the strengths are, we should lean into them. Remind individuals that the same way they dedicate this effort and time to their professional careers, it's something that they can dedicate to themselves and to their recovery. Remind individuals that faith can be totally a component along your recovery journey. And by taking care of yourself, right, practicing your own recovery lifestyle, implementing self-care is actually something that can help you build stronger bonds and better relationships with the family. You're becoming this role model because you are modeling the behavior for yourself, which can, again, be a good example for the youth.
Thank you, David. Rachel, how can organizations partner to promote mental health to Hispanic and Latinx communities, considering our unique challenges?
I think it's important to remember that they're already supporting mental health, that when we connect with other people, when we volunteer and have a role and feel like we're giving to the community, that's good for our mental health. And I think that next step is to have staff prepared to talk about mental health, trained in suicide prevention or mental health first aid, or things like Mentes Fuertes, or El Futuro provides some training, Cuidar la mente es cuidar la vida, to protect your mind is to protect your life, so that people can have conversations about mental health and reduce that stigma and help people feel good about getting the support they need and connecting to the resources they need.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Elizabeth, how can family and friends better support someone dealing with a mental health challenge?
Yes, family and friends can listen, be there, right, to support the person. We don't have to, a lot of the times we think we need to have the right answer. And we don't need to have an answer sometimes. Sometimes we just need to be there to listen, to show empathy, to let them know that they're not alone, to let them know that they are a friend, that they understand what they're going through, and that they can help them find resources, accompany them to a mental health clinic, help them make that appointment, accompany them to other resources, connect them to resources in the community.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I would like to add something, and I'm going to say it in Spanish. Para apoyar a nuestros familiares y amistades, es bueno conocer nuestros recursos. Y yo quiero hablar un momentito sobre la línea 988. Lo voy a decir en español, ¿verdad? La línea 988 es para prevención de suicidio y apoyo en crisis. Es gratis, confidencial. Trabaja 24 horas, 7 días de la semana, vas a recibir apoyo emocional. Estos profesionales te van a contactar con recursos. Muchísimas gracias. Um, um, I would like to thank you to all our presenters for your contributions and for leading such a meaningful discussion today. Quiero agradecer a todos nuestros panelistas por toda la información que nos han brindado hoy. Ustedes han hecho de este seminario una conversación enriquecedora y muy poderosa que está contribuyendo a mejorar la salud mental de nuestra comunidad. Now, at this time, I would like to turn it over to Kelly Crosby, Director for the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Pamela, am I good on volume? Hear me okay? All right, I'm going to assume yes.
Yes.
And sorry about my office, y'all. We're moving, so there's a lot of moving boxes, but I'm sorry I couldn't be here at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm really excited to be here at the end. And I was able to actually join partway through. So I really want to thank Pamela for organizing this today. Pamela, we're so glad you're part of our team here. I want to thank all of our special guest speakers for being here today, but also just for your partnership. You know, for me today, joining Partway was because I want to listen and learn. There's much that I need to learn because I want to be better at my job, and I want to support all people living here in North Carolina. I want to support our Latino community better, and it's important for me to listen and learn. So I'm super grateful for your leadership, Pamela, the leadership of all the speakers here today, and for being with us. I didn't introduce myself, I'm so sorry, but there's a slide here saying who I am. I'm the director of our Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services. And we have a real commitment, real and genuine commitment to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone who lives in North Carolina. Everyone is of value. You matter. If you're on this call today, I need you to hear that you matter. Your mental health matters. Your well-being matters. If you're using substances, you just matter, period. And I want to make sure that you know that. And I want to make sure that we're building the right services and supports in North Carolina, however those need to look and feel. Everything from culturally humble and competent clinicians, bilingual clinicians, but also services in community with community organizations that make sense and are more comfortable for people. People need to feel comfortable. They need to go where they feel welcome and where things make sense. And I just want supports and services to be available to families, our Latino members who are living here in North Carolina. So I'm grateful for folks. I'm grateful for what I learned today, and I'm grateful for the partnership we have with these organizations, and always looking for more partnerships that serve our Latino folks living here in North Carolina. So today, I just wanted to end the webinar with a couple of resources. Some of these you probably already know. So I've got a couple slides just explaining what they are. So the first thing, my guess is it's going to be 988. I did see these slides, I promise. Yep. So I just want to share some, everyone should know, I hope, 988 by now. But I can't emphasize enough, 988 is a really important resource here in North Carolina. It's free. It's confidential. It is safe. It is, you can press 2 if you happen to need a Spanish line. If you are a veteran, you can press 1. You don't have to press either, and you can just go through and talk to someone. These are crisis counselors. They are trained. We actually, we have a phenomenal partner. The partner who actually manages our crisis line is Real Crisis out of Wilmington. It's a statewide line though, y'all. And I want to give a shout out in particular to El Futuro, who actually worked with the Real Crisis Center to train their crisis clinicians. We do have bilingual clinicians, of course, but just to provide additional training, like some of the training we had today, because we want to make sure that our crisis counselors are well trained. And again, as culturally humble as possible. But again, we want to learn every day. Free, confidential. This is not calling 911. It's very different. And I want to assure you that not only do you have to call or can you call when you're in crisis, right? You can just call if you need to talk to someone, if you need advice, if you need resources for family members, and they're there for that as well. You can just call and get support and referrals to services and supports. Also on this slide is our peer warm line. Our peer warm line is literally a line that is staffed by people with lived experience. I'm a person with lived experience, and that means that I have my own experience in the mental health system. Our folks with lived experience have experience in the mental health system and the substance use system. That means they themselves have lived with mental illness or substance use. They've navigated the treatment system, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes is not helpful. They may have managed stigma, legal issues, family issues, whatever. And so they're a wonderful place that you can go and know that you're talking to someone who really has some understanding of what it is that you're experiencing. And it's a wonderful line. It's 1-855-PEERS-NC. We're grateful to our partner, PRN, Promise Resource Network, who manages the statewide peer line. It's 24/7. So feel free to check them out as well. Just another good free confidential resource available for anyone. Next slide, please. This one is kind of new, and that's why we're talking about it in particular. We're just trying to use every opportunity to get the word out. So you may know, or you may have had this experience or not, or you may know someone that needs this support. One of the groups of folks that we've been particularly concerned about here in North Carolina are young people that do get involved with the justice system. Now, listen, that might mean they are the victim of a crime. It might mean they are awaiting maybe a court hearing because they've been accused of a crime. They may be a person who is a victim and accused of a crime, right? It's complicated. But we also know that these folks often need support. They might be involved in the juvenile justice system because they haven't had supports or they've had traumatic histories. Maybe they have untreated substance use issues. They haven't been able to find treatment. So this is a free, not required service that we're trying to get the word out about any teen ages 13 to 17. This is 24/7 access to therapists. The kids can chat and text if they're more comfortable. They can also call and talk. We're trying to give this out to families, to court counselors, to community agencies, just as a resource, because honestly, being involved in the juvenile justice system in any fashion can be particularly stressful and challenging for a young person, their family, and want to make sure that those young folks get the help and support that they need all through the process, right? So Talkspace is just one of our newest resources. You can click on that link there to get more information. Again, it's completely free, it's completely anonymous, but we welcome you to refer folks to Talkspace as a resource. It's just one of our newest resources. We just wanted you to know about it as a new resource. And then the last thing, I think I have one more slide, I think. Yes, we're trying to do better here to make sure that people understand our system, right? So access, meaning access to care, has a lot of root causes, right? Sometimes there's just no services available, right? And you'll see us leaning more and more on virtual things like Talkspace that I mentioned, or 988, because those often are accessible in rural or hard to reach areas. And sometimes we can get better language supports that way as well, to be honest. So sometimes it's that, but sometimes it's just not access to culturally humble or appropriate care. I saw survey number 3. That was the #1 issue that you were all mentioning, right? But sometimes stigma keeps people from the system. Other times, just not understanding our confusing system keeps people from accessing the system. So we've been trying really hard, and we'll keep on trying hard to try to better explain our system. We've been trying to explain things like the Medicaid program, certain services in the Medicaid program. And we've been trying to explain our crisis services. And when we explain them, we've been trying to create plain language information, and that's everything from PowerPoint slides to social media posts, to flyers that we hand out. You've probably, if you've seen Pamela at an event, she has had some flyers trying to explain things in our service. But we've tried to make sure that all of those things, our website, our social media, our flyers, are actually also in Spanish, right? So again, we want them to be understandable, but we also want them to be translated in folks' primary language. So what you have here is an example, an important example of our crisis bilingual toolkit. There's a lot of things. There's social media posts, I said, there's videos, there's one-pagers. So you can use any of these. You can share them on Facebook. You can print them out. You can ask us to print you some out if you want to take them to a community event. But just know that this is an example, but these are just very real tools that you can use because we're committed to language equity here. I don't mean to use fancy terms, but that's what it is. We need a system that treats everyone with respect and fairness. And we want to make sure that people whose primary language might not be English also can understand our system, which can be confusing at times. So we're very committed to making sure that people understand our system and, to the best of our ability, understand it in their own language. All right. And I think that was my last list of resources that I wanted to talk with you about today. And I think, am I turning this over, Pamela, back to you or to Dina?
Back to me. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Dina. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining us today.
If we did not get an opportunity to answer your question during the webinar, questions and feedback are welcome at bhidd.helpcenter@dhhs.nc.gov. The recording and presentation slides for today's event will be posted on our Community Engagement and Training webpage. For more information and resources, stay connected with DMH-DDS-US by attending our monthly side-by-side webinars and joining our mailing list. The links are included in the chat box. There will be a brief survey following today's webinar, and we would appreciate your time completing it. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for attending.